Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 34. We have a decent show coming up. Try and make it not as standard as the last few have been with the Players' Championship event, Premier League. We will talk about the Premier League quickly. Then we've got another topic to get through at the end, so stick tight and we'll get stuck into that. Johnny Clayton has joined MVG as a three-time night winner in the new style of Premier League. There's not many big tournaments at the moment, so it's hard to judge too much as to how everyone's going. The floor tournaments tend to differ a lot in who's playing well as to the big stage ones, and with only the Premier League as the big TV tournament at the moment, you have a big break between the World Championships and the Masters, then through to the Premier League runs, but it goes for so long and over so many weeks and only 8 players. UK Open was in there, but from the UK Open right through to the World Cup, which doesn't have all your big stars anyway, only 2 from each country, through to the then World Match Play. It's a pretty big gap. So on TV, you're only getting a look at those 8 players. But out of that, you can probably say that Johnny Clayton and Michael van Gerwen right now are the 2 best players. And whenever they meet, it is an absolute cracker. In all, the whole night went really well for the top 4 going into it. They all won, and James Wade and Peter Wright solidified their spot. Michael van Gerwen and Johnny Clayton obviously pretty much guaranteed now. We'll have a look at it later. But bad news for the bottom 4 as they try and encroach into the top 4. It didn't go well for them. Gary Anderson's dodgy Premier League continues. He had a 6-2 loss, averaged 87, and never really looked likely really at all. Just let me get my microphone right, guys. Sorry about that. I'm trying not to have it in front of my face, but we'll try and get it in the shot because it makes me look slightly more professional. There we go. He never really looked likely. The crowd was going crazy and hoping that he would have a huge performance being in Aberdeen that Premier League night. But yeah, just couldn't really fire him up, the crowd. But unlucky for Gaz and still entrenched at the bottom of the Premier League ladder. -2 fantasy points for Gary Anderson. Joe Cullen, he put up a fight and did well to hang on to the coattails of Peter Wright. He wasn't bad, Joe, just Peter was far too good. Peter threw first in the last leg decider and left himself 32 after 12 darts. And that was night over for Joe Cullen there. Joe had -1 of fantasy points. Michael Smith was okay. Averaged 91, 45% on his doubles, which is better than what he had been going at. But that 91 average is scoring let him down there. Another last leg decider, and James Wade got it done over him. A massive chance for Bully Boy. James Wade only averaged 89-ish, I think. And when James Wade does that and checks out at 35%, you've really got to take that chance because you don't get many chances against James Wade. And that was a big chance going for Michael Smith, especially with James Wade being in 4th spot. A night win for Michael Smith would have had him right up there. But yeah, he had 70 points left in that last leg decider to Michael Smith. So unfortunate for him. He scored 0 fantasy points. Gerwen Price, he was outclassed by a ruthless MVG. Michael van Gerwen was up and about, a 92 average for Gerwen and 106 for Michael van Gerwen. It's always crazy when they play each other, Gerwen versus Michael van Gerwen. It's always hard to do. Apparently he's pain-free and he looks better. He looks solid. He's gaining every week. He's getting more and more back to the number 1 in the world style Gerwen Price that we know he can be. Now it's just a matter of, now that he's pain-free, he can work on getting himself back and resetting that throw and getting back to the accuracy that we know he has on that triple 20, and especially tops. Those 2 targets are really, really his go-to, and he hits it quite regularly. The match was on throw until it got to 3-3, and that's when Michael van Gerwen took over proceedings. -2 fantasy points for Gerwen Price. So his total fantasy points is at 64, and he got 56 of those points in one night, that unbelievable night when he was untouchable. So it hasn't really been a great Premier League for Gerwen Price. We'll have a look at how many points he's on later. I cannot remember off the top of my head. at maybe 13 or 14 or something, and he got 5 of those in one night. Probably not even that high. So that one night really gave him a chance. So the rest of it, he hasn't really done too much. I don't think he's made any other finals. So he'll be looking to get going. Peter Wright, he was solid. That's our quarterfinalist done. We now move on to the semi-finalists. We're going to rattle through the Premier League so we can have a look at our next topic and keep it nice and short and sharp for you all tonight. Peter Wright was solid versus Joe. He had 4 180s and 9 140s, so he is the 140 king, Peter Wright. Don't even worry about that. He got the job done against Joe. Simple as that. He had a pretty good average, and yeah, Joe was not good enough to keep up with him. He lost 6-5 in a cracker with Johnny Clayton. The crowd couldn't get Peter Wright over the line either, so the 2 Scottish boys both knocked out by a Welshman. No wonder the crowd was going off their nut at Johnny Clayton. Peter Wright was left on tops when Johnny broke the hearts of all the Aberdeenians. I don't know if that's what they call themselves, but yeah, he had 40 left in another last leg decider. There was a few last leg deciders where players were ripe and ready to go. But unfortunately, Peter couldn't get it done for the home crowd. Now, what has interested me during the week is Peter Wright is determined and said he is going to stop tinkering with his darts. I'll believe that when I see it. The positive is he has stuck with those gold darts that won him he dominated the match play last year, and those were the darts he used, and he used those whenever he performed well at the World Championship. So he changed to them in the game against Damon Hedder when Damon was up 2-0. Peter Wright changed to those gold darts and took over from there. But we've said it before, we'll say it again. He's the world number 1, the reigning world match play and world champion. He's a chance in the Premier League here, and he's always changed darts. So to me, it's not a massive deal. It's not a massive issue. If he wants to change, he can change. If he wants to stay the same, he can stay the same. I feel like he performs best with those thin, straight-barreled, long gold darts. He had 7 fantasy points. James Wade snuck past Bully Boy. He was pretty lucky to get through that one we said before, only an 89 average. His scoring that has been so phenomenal of late deserted him a little bit, wasn't as good, and his finishing was only 30%, which is un-James Wade-like. But you have those games, and he got over the line in that one just to add a few more points to his tally. He had a very similar performance in the quarterfinal, so it wasn't a great night for James Wade, but he would have been pretty pleased to get a win. Now, the only difference between that quarterfinal and the semi was he was playing MVG, who was absolutely on. But he just continues to get points on the board. That's another 2 points in the bank for James Wade. And he had 3 fantasy points, so not a great performance fantasy points-wise for someone that played in 2 games, and he was on my team. MVG kicked off the night with 106 average versus Gerwen Price in a 6-3 win. He had 3 180s, a couple of 177s and 174s. He was fantastic on triple 19 all night. Just phenomenal to watch. The switching is next level. He had a 6-3 win versus James Wade. He wasn't as strong in that game, and sometimes when your opponent plays a certain way, you don't play a certain way, or you do play a certain way, and didn't have a great average there. Look at this beach life, and I'm on the water. You can see the beach through my water. The beach behind me is at Elliott Heads. I'm not actually at Elliott Heads, there's a green screen, but how fantastic does that look? You take your dartboard to the beach. What kind of nuffy takes their dartboard to a beach? This guy. Where were we? Yeah, he was just shy of a ton in that match, was Michael Van Gerwen. But he made his way through to another final, so a 5th or 6th final for Michael Van Gerwen. Clayton, the killer of the Scots, we'll have a look at the final in a minute. Gaz never really got going, so it wasn't much of a challenge for Johnny. He had 3 180s, 42% on his doubles, and was pretty professional in that win. 4 180s, 8 140s, and 30% in a last leg decider versus Peter Wright. So a good performance there, as Peter Wright was playing pretty well on the night. And that set up the final of first place versus second place on the table, and winner takes top spot. So a great setup for a great encounter on night 11, I think this was. But they just produce Great quality matches, as I said. They're probably the best two in the world at the moment, going off whatever you want to judge. And they really performed like that tonight. Thursday night for them, Friday morning for us. That's just, quality. Those two, they always produce it. Their numbers are ridiculous. They're always averaging well over a ton against each other. And it was another last leg decider, so quite a few last leg deciders. There was maybe 4 last leg deciding matches on the night, and that's just fantastic. 103 average for Clayton, 102 for Van Gerwen, both mid-40s on their checkout. Brilliant 94 checkout in leg 5 for MVG. He's gone single 18, double 19, double 19, and that is just next level. That's what you want. And that was after hitting a 171 to set it up. So brilliant darts. That's like stuff you dream of. MVG was up a break of throw after that, and a brilliant 88 peg for Johnny. Got it back to all square. They then traded breaks of throw till the last leg, and then Johnny was able to get it done. So another night win for Johnny. They both moved to 3, and I think Johnny's 1 or 2 points clear on the table, which we'll have a look at in a minute. There was a bit of late drama, and it's not great. It's the whistling that's causing drama. Stupid. Why anyone would go to a darts match and want to whistle. Darts crowds and darts in general is full of respect for your opponent, for the players up there playing, for the referee. So just one tiny little blip on the radar of respect that's within darts. And there was an issue with it at the European Tour. Johnny Clayton put it perfectly. The whistling, we'll get into the actual drama. It can put off your opponent more than it can put you off. And it was prevalent in this situation. MVG wasn't happy with Russ Bray, not so much Johnny Clayton or the whistler, because they were whistling to put off Johnny Clayton, because Johnny Clayton had beaten the 2 Scotsmen, so the crowd was against him. The whole crowd was, but there's just this one nuffy whistling, and that's all that everyone was upset with, and that's it. But Russ Bray announced twice, or even 3 times, I think it was only twice. Someone said 3, but I think it was only twice, as Michael Van Gerwen's about to throw. So Johnny's throwing his darts, and as Johnny's throwing his darts, as he's grabbing them out of the board, Michael set himself up to throw, and then Russ Bray is throwing his hand out saying, "Thank you, please, don't whistle, stop." And that's what Michael Van Gerwen has taken umbrage to. I think that's the same, taken umbrage to. Not sure. He wasn't happy because he's set himself up ready to throw. He's got his mind set, and then he's hearing Russ Bray shout out again after he should have stopped shouting, and he's even put his arm out in one scenario to say stop whistling. So that's very much frustrating for a player to deal with. If you watch George Noble and the way he handled it at the European Tour, I think it was the German Darts Grand Prix, he signals to the player well before they're set in their throw, because that's the crucial thing here is Van Gerwen's set in his throw. Once that player starts approaching the oche, that's when they're set. So you've got to hold them up before they approach the oche so that they're not in their momentum. They would still be annoyed that they have to wait and unsettle them, but it's less unsettling because they're not ready. They're not already in that motion of getting ready to throw. That's what the point of the oche is, how it's raised. You'll find a lot of them don't need to look at the floor. They'll look at their foot, and they won't look at their foot. Sorry, they'll use their foot to hit the oche and get themselves set. So once they're starting to walk up, that's when they're set. Their eyes are on the 20. So yeah, watch George Noble. He'll let the player know not to set up. Then he'll have a chat, or he'll do it at the end of the leg. But Russ Bray in this situation was so frustrated with what was happening. He's the ref. He is in charge of what's going on, in charge of keeping the crowd on side. I know it's a lot to put on someone, but that's just they take that on board. I know you can't control all nuffies. They never will be able to. But they take that on board because they take their role seriously. And Russ was unable to do it in that situation, so it started to frustrate him, I think. And he didn't do it the way George Noble would have done it, or quite a few of them would have done it. So you can understand why Russ Bray was frustrated, and you can definitely understand why MVG was frustrated, because it just threw more. In trying to rescue the situation for Johnny Clayton, Russ Bray has thrown off Michael Van Gerwen. And so the whistling bloke, all he did was throw off the player he wanted to win. So why you would go and do that, I'm not sure, especially against someone like Johnny Clayton. He's an absolute legend and everyone loves him. So Strange, but it is what it is. Now, MVG is very close to getting back to his best, but the competition in darts is so fierce at the moment. The standard, the quality, the amount of players coming through is next level. It's getting up and up and up and up and up. And some of the numbers he's hitting in this Premier League, the domination of a lot of the stats, is what he was doing in 2014, 15, 16, 17, right through to 2019. But everyone is up there with him now, and Johnny Clayton is going toe-to-toe the whole way through, which is fantastic. Yeah. And Johnny Clayton, he looks every bit in that top four conversation at the moment. I think he's eighth in the world at the moment. He is in the top four conversation with Gerwen Price, who's dropped down a little bit. His form's a bit iffy. We know why. Peter Wright, Michael Van Gerwen, James Wade. Johnny Clayton is with those guys as potential number one and winning every tournament they're in, even though there's a million others. MVG, 10 fantasy points. He was my captain, so I got 20 for him. Johnny Clayton, 17 fantasy points. So I think I scored 40 and was ranked maybe 100 and something again. So I'm doing relatively well the last few weeks, so hopefully that keeps up. Next week, James Wade versus Michael Van Gerwen. I'm tipping Van Gerwen to win that one. The winner to play, Gerwen Price or Joe Cullen. I think Gerwen Price wins that. Michael Smith versus Gary Anderson. I'm tipping Gary Anderson to bounce back, although never take what I tip. And Peter Wright versus Johnny Clayton. I think Peter Wright might win that one. He's looking better and better each week after not going missing, but just not performing quite as well as he can. This was a pretty good night, and just because he's throwing first in that one. So the winner of Wright Clayton plays the winner of Smith Anderson. Peter Wright, I think, will then beat Gary Anderson. Gerwen Price, I think, will then beat Michael Van Gerwen. And I'm tipping a Gerwen Price night win, and to really try and get himself back into the fray. Now, we can have a look at the Premier League ladder. So out on top by 1 point, Johnny Clayton. You can see that there. Johnny Clayton, 26. Michael Van Gerwen, 25. Peter Wright, 20. James Wade, equal on 20. Joe Cullen, 15. Gerwen Price, 11. So 5 of those coming in one night. Michael Smith, 8. And Gary Anderson, 7. Gary Anderson had 5 of those in one night as well. So Gerwen Price and Gary Anderson, things aren't going as well as they would have hoped. And yeah, so an interesting night. So what do we got? We got Wade versus Van Gerwen. That is second versus fourth. And Price versus Cullen, 5th versus 6th. That's an interesting one. So if Gerwen Price can come through and win that, he'll put himself ahead of Joe Cullen if he can win the night. Smith and Anderson, that's a cellar-dweller battle. And Wright Clayton is an absolute classic with third versus first. So some interesting games of darts to come up next week in the Premier League. And who knows what's going to happen, but I don't think you are going to see. So you can see the gap there. 5 points there. Yes, it may only be one win for Joe Cullen, but he's then got to hope that James Wade, Peter Wright don't win to get himself up there and in. There's a long way to go. Don't write off any of them, but I don't see too much changing because you would have to have a massive fall off from all those guys. So Peter Wright and James Wade just keep on winning and getting themselves through semi-finals. And Johnny Clayton and Michael Van Gerwen just keep winning nights. So I don't see too much change happening there. Right, the topic we're all here for tonight. Let me get rid of the Premier League ladder. I've done a bit of research into this. A lot of it's my own research, my own opinion, and I've got a few outsider opinions as well. Why darts is the greatest sport known to man and on the planet. You can knock out half the sports in the world due to the action. Darts is all action when they're up on stage. There's no stop, there's no start, there's darts being thrown. Every 3 seconds you're seeing 100 plus points scored. Maybe not 3, maybe 5 seconds, probably I'll average it out at. And then the next bloke's up ready to throw his darts. So that's the most important thing in sport is you want action. You want to see consistent action being played. So take out NFL, baseball, tennis, golf, cricket, all too slow. Don't get me wrong, they're great sports. I love watching the NFL when I have a spare 5 hours to watch a 1 hour game. Baseball, don't mind watching a bit of baseball, especially when it's on in the background. Tennis is crap. Golf, I'd love to be good at golf, but it's just too slow. And cricket is just far too slow as well. 6 hours, and you're probably getting maybe an hour of action. There's too much field changes. The bowler walking back to his mark. You don't see a lot of action. Darts is all action. There's bugger all tactics. You want to finish the leg as soon as you can. So take AFL, soccer, MMA, boxing. Your opposition approach drastically affects your game. You can flood the back line in AFL. Soccer, they can do different things. I don't really know. MMA, you can turn it into a scrap when someone's a striker, and vice versa. Boxing, you sit back and wait for an approach from your opponent, basically. So there's two people standing there waiting for someone else to throw something. The only time you've seen tactics too much in darts is slowing a player down or trying to rush them. Because as much as we all say, the idea of darts is to finish as quick as you can. So your tactic is basic. Score as quick as you can, get down to a double, hit those doubles. No one's sitting there saying, I want to throw a 15 dart leg to see if my opponent is scared off. I want to throw a 21 dart leg to see if my opponent thinks he's then got a chance in the match. You're trying to finish your game of darts, each leg, in 12 or less so that your opponent has no chance. That's not a tactic. That is just playing darts how it should be played. You did see, back to the pace scenario, Monsieur Silovic. This is the most out there example of a tactics slowing down tactic. In the 2020 World Championships, his tactic against Gary Anderson was to slow him down. And there was periods where he was taking longer than 30 seconds from when Gary took his darts out. He'd still be over having a drink. He'd slowly walk up. He'd stare at the target. He'd grab that dart and he'd do it. There was 30 seconds and he played a horrendous first set. It was absolutely terrible by his standard. Yes, it threw Gary off, but he didn't win that set and he looked terrible. Absolutely terrible. And he never played like that again. He's still a slow player, but he did not play that slow for the rest of the match. And you'll never see him play that slow again. It's just, it throws yourself off and it throws the other player off, but more so yourself, because all you're doing is throwing your own rhythm off, and that's not what you want. Gary has since then, whenever he plays Mention, because he knows he has an issue with slower players, he just takes his time and doesn't get himself set. So when Mention normally throws, or any player throws, you'll see Gary, he's set behind, ready to walk up to the hockey. He was just taking a little bit more time. Sorted that out. Those tactics out the window. Darts doesn't have tactics. You rarely see the pace game enough to bother anyone. Training. There's no sport in the world that you can really replicate match day. So in a game of golf, you can go out there and swing and hit balls as much as you can. You can't replicate a putt, a 10-foot putt or an 8-foot putt or whatever the sort of putt you're going for, when a player is one shot behind you or one shot in front of you or trying to hit a straight drive. Cricket, you can never replicate, batting out for a draw. AFL, the set shot for goal. Darts is the same. You cannot replicate trying to hit tops when your opponent is sitting there on 32, waiting for a shot to win World Championships. You cannot replicate it. However, darts is simple to train for. You go to your dartboard and you throw darts. There's a million different training games you can play, but that's the one aspect of darts. There's only one aspect to it. Throw right, get your throw right, and you're good. Most other sports, you're looking at your recovery, your bloody diet, kicking skills, game sense, game awareness. You're doing tactics, you're doing reviews, you're doing all that sort of stuff. Not darts. You're out there to go. You go stand on front of your board and you play. So that's that simple. Right now. Hang on, give me 2 seconds. Darts is straight into what you do. Yeah, straight into what you do game day. No recovery. No, I'm reading notes. Most of you think I don't do notes. I do a lot of notes. I've gone through a 128-page book in 5 or 6 episodes. Right, the top level right now in the world of darts is so super competitive. I know it hasn't always been, but right now, that is what is elevating darts even higher, is how competitive the world of darts is. If you go to the World Match Play that's coming up, Michael Van Gerwen, Gerwen Price, Peter Wright, Johnny Clayton, James Wade, Michael Smith, Gary Anderson still capable. All these guys on the big stage are capable of getting it done. Go to the next Players' Championship events. Those guys aren't even favourite that we just said, even though it's just another tournament. Damon Hedder, Luke Humphries, Rob Cross, Dirk van Dijvenbode, Joe Cullen, Ryan Searle, on the floor right now, are playing better darts than the guys previously that we just spoke about. And they're this close to stepping it up to that next stage. I guarantee you, Dirk van Dijvenbode and Damon Hedder are ready to crack. They are going to have a blistering world match play. So if you compare that to Formula One, it's Lewis Hamilton or Max Verstappen, whoever's driving in, I think it's McLaren. Tennis, it's Rafael Nadal, it's Novak Djokovic. For the last decade, it's been them and Federer. Nobody else. It's boring as batshit. Premier League, soccer, for example, as someone like me, you know that it's always going to be Arsenal, Man U, Man City. They're the only guys up there. There's not a lot of rules to darts. You've got 501 points. You've got to finish on a double, which is the outer ring. Do your maths right. Throw as high a score as you can in as little darts as you can, get down to a double, hit that double. Stay out of the exclusion zone. And I think that's about the only rules I wrote down. Get out of the way as quick as you can. That's more of a respect thing. I think there's a rule on how long you've got to get your darts out. But you don't need it because that's the respect level in darts. That's another thing, is the amount of respect that darts players have for each other. And the way they play darts, it's simple. Throw it, get out of the way. Don't try and explain AFL, NFL, NRL. Don't try and explain those rules to a casual. And that's what sport's about. At the moment, you're trying to get more fans across to your sport. AFL is an absolute mess on the rules. And the NFL, it's not such a mess, but it's hard to understand exactly what's going on and what's happening. Perfect example, I think there was a tackle, I think, that like the forwards smashed everyone down, ran, caught the ball and got a touchdown. But for some reason, he was an illegal positioned player. I have no idea why. The AFL is an absolute mess with the dissent rule. We get it. We know why it's there, but they don't enforce it properly. It can't be 1 week a free kick, 1 week the next. The stand rule, where you're supposed to just stand, is now gone, even though last year it was a massive rule. It's now gone, and players can move around as much as they want because umpires are waiting for they're not looking at that guy because they're looking at the guy with the ball to find out if he's going to put his arms in the air. Who knows what's going on? You cannot explain all that stuff. You don't need to explain any of that in darts. You can explain that you need to do your maths right. You need to score 501 points, finish on a double before he does. Boom. The crowd, as much as we spoke about the whistling, so you've had 2 whistling guys in the last 5 tournaments, 5 events. There's always going to be one nuffy that you can't eradicate, but normally the crowd are pretty respectful. They're there to have a good time and to watch great darts. Go from the PDC where it is about fanfare. They dress up. They have a brilliant time. Then go to something run by the WDF. So there's some events here in Australia as well, over in England, Lakeside. They're darts fanatics and they're there to watch quality darts. They're not there to cause trouble. They're not there to cause drama. Compare that to what we've seen in the NRL the last just couple of weeks. You've had a female streaker get absolutely crunched. Another guy run out there and streak just to prove a point. And a big punch on during the Anzac Day ceremony. Yes, one guy's a nuffy for speaking out too loud. The other guy's then thrown 3 or 4 punches to a guy that hasn't even responded. And that's basically because there's not much happening in an NRL. There's not much to do, so you got to find something to do. And yeah, they're complete nuffies. So the crowd, normally very respectful. So there's a lot there, just in my opinion and from what I can see, as to why darts is the greatest sport in the world. There's a lot of talk within the darts realm, not so much outside of darts being the Olympics. And it has been, they've put in an application to get it in quite a few times, and it hasn't been put through. A lot of the times it's to do with there's not much movement in it to call it a sport. That's eradicated. That's irrelevant because there's quite a lot of sports where there isn't much doing. All the horsing events, the horse does the work, the jockey just sits there. And what are the other ones? Archery, shooting. There's all no movement by the person. There's actually less in shooting than anything else. So that's irrelevant. And the one argument they have that's okay, I guess, is that it's such a small, closed-in sport. There's only 2.37 meters between the board and look how close my hand is. 2.37 meters between the board and the player. So there's not a lot to view. You have to view it on a TV. But at the end of the day, does it need to be the Olympics? I don't think so. There's not much money in the Olympics. All Olympians will tell you that. A gold medal is not really worth that much. And a lot of it, it's every 4 years. The World Championships in a lot of sports are every year. World Cups are every couple of years, if not every year. There's more in your individual sport, and I don't think a lot of Olympians rate it as highly as a lot of people think. This is only my opinion, but I can't imagine them the swimmers ranting and raving about once every 4 year tournament when they have their own big events every 1 to 4 years. MMA and boxing, I don't think MMA is in it, but boxing's definitely in it. There was an undercard at a Sydney fight that nobody knew about, and our Olympian was there. No one knows his name. No one knows who's doing it. I've forgotten his name. That's how irrelevant it is. And it's just not where it's at. Boxing, people know Jake Paul better than they know the Olympic gold medalist because the money is in their pay-per-view events. They're big events that they do all the time, not the one they do every 4 years. So, pretty simple stuff. Darts doesn't need to be the Olympics. I would love for it to get there, and it would be a cracking contest, but it doesn't need to be there. Simple as that. Now, some of the research I did, I have a darts mate. I've played darts with him. We've been mates for a while, family, friends on my wife's side. His reason for loving darts and thinking that darts is the greatest is it's all-inclusive across all levels. You don't need to be an athletic superstar. Don't get me wrong, you do want a level of fitness, and we don't want people to be overweight and unfit in general life. We want everyone to be healthy. But you can get in. Some people aren't born with athletic abilities. I'm not 6'6" and an athletic ruckman or basketballer. The next guy, he might be 5'6" and is never going to do well. A lot of AFL players are that 6 foot mark and they talk players down. Boomer Harvey was almost not getting drafted. Dane Zorko didn't get drafted due to his height. That's irrelevant in darts. And all that is irrelevant. Your build, your size, who you are, you can throw darts. Everyone can do it, and it doesn't take much to practice, get involved. All round, it's so inclusive. You go to your local darts comp, no one's going to say, no, you're probably not quite good enough and not what we're after. You can join it, you can play in it, and have some fun. And if you're any good, you'll get yourself involved. You'll excite yourself. And it's such an international sport as well. Everywhere you go, all around the world, people know what a dartboard is. It's in every American movie. Someone's got a dartboard in their background. Big Bang Theory, there's one on their wall. And that's American stuff. So even Americans are into it. English are mad for it. It's here in Australia. We have some very high quality players here in Australia. And all over the world. It's just everyone knows what it is. Now, more importantly, I went to a mate that's not darts obsessed and asked him 2 questions. His name is Adrian Brennan, good friend of mine, and just an all-round legend. I asked him, why do you like darts? Why aren't you obsessed with darts? What don't you like about it? So, and the simple answer was, the only reason he's not overly into it is how accessible it is to watch, free to air. We have Dartstream Live, but not many people know about that, so I'll continue to help promote that through here. So jump onto Dartstream Live, follow them. They do a lot of their own matches. They cover a lot of the Australian tournaments, hopefully more and more. I don't think they did the Murray Bridge Classic, but they did the Easter Classic in Victoria, and hopefully they continue to do more and more. They cover all the DPA events. So follow Dartstream Live, and you'll also get a lot of the what's happening over in the England. They'll do repost some of the PDC stuff. I'll repost some of the PDC stuff. But it's definitely an issue. The coverage is definitely an issue I've noticed and plan on working on. I've said to a few people before and posted about it. I was on KO the other day and had to put up with watching Ultimate Frisbee. That's right, Ultimate Frisbee Championships of Australia. So the way how that's on and darts is beyond me. Mainly, if the quality wasn't there, I'd accept it. But we have many, many players, and you'll see when the World Series is on how much competition there is just to get a spot as a challenger, let alone what those challengers do on the big stage. I guarantee you Robbie King Raymond Smith and Bailey Marsh, Brandon Weaning will all get a spot. So there's probably one spot up for grabs. Those players might not make it. There's one more spot up for grabs, which could be one of 20 different Australian darts players. They will compete. They will be competitive in that. And with any luck, they'll knock some of them off. But competitiveness is what we want to see. We don't want to see sports that we've never heard of. We've all heard of darts. We all know what darts is. You'll get viewers if you put it on. And sport's simple. The viewers are what brings in the money. That's where the sport gets its money from viewers. Sponsorship, because there's viewers, they get their names in there, and that breeds more money. More money into the sport creates more interest, or interest probably creates more money as well. But having it on TV will create interest, help create money, which will help help bring in bigger prize money. Bigger prize money will help the competitiveness and the amount people put into it. If you double the prize money for any tournament, people are going to practice harder to win it, which is going to create higher quality, more players, more competitiveness, which is going to create more interest, more money, which is going to create more prize money. It just explodes up from there. As much as the sport can go down in the same manner, darts only has up to go. So we will continue to work on that here and contact a lot of people about getting it further and further. One of the other things, so it was basically just the coverage of it. He didn't know where to get his highlights, where to watch it. If you've got KO, you can watch the Premier League darts, and all the big tournaments are on there, and you can actually go back and archive a lot of the last 12 months of the big tournaments. YouTube, you'll get a lot of highlights. Follow the PDC, you'll get a lot of highlights there. But we're relying on an Australian broadcaster to get involved here. That's what we want. That's what we want to see. Because we want to see Australian darts be covered. We all know the Premier League's on. We all know the World Championships are on. We don't want to see that. What we're talking about now is watching Raymond Smith with Robbie King, that's on every week, that's on every tournament. We want to see the two young guys that are heading over to represent Australia at the World Youth Championships. We want to see Brandon Weaning and Bailey Marsh. We want to see them on TV. Kai Smith, who's just played over at the World Championships, we want to see him on TV and Australian darts. The quality, I guarantee you, is there. There's a million players in Australia, maybe not a million, but there are thousands of players in Australia playing at your local pub or online that can match all those names that I've just said that aren't playing, because there's not enough reason to. But if you say, hey, there's a tournament on for 100K, do you want to go play that? Well, yeah, they'll be on that in a minute. So it's a big thing that has definitely been let down. I know I can do something about it. There's a lot of people that can do something about it, but the Australian broadcasters should be ashamed of themselves for having things like Ultimate Frisbee. No disrespect to Ultimate Frisbee or Premier League lawn bowls, but darts has definitely got more appeal than those sports. Some of the things he loved about darts, which we all love, is the atmosphere, the characters within the game. Go watch a game of darts. Go watch the Premier League and see what it's like. Chuck on some headphones and crank the volume. My God, it'll blow you away. It'll blow you away just as much as the 90,000 at Anzac Day just did. Go and watch a local tournament, and it's not as loud as that, but the camaraderie, the respect, and the quality of darts being thrown is fantastic. You want to see that. Oh no, my camera's gone. Anyway, you're probably going to be stuck looking at my face. Yeah, I've just disappeared. My camera's gone. So we'll deal with that for now. You won't see me for the rest of the episode, but it's just about done. We'll wrap it up there anyway. I think I was just finishing off what I had got from that friend. Yeah, the darts is number one. It is the number one thing going round. You cannot beat it. We'll cover my family in that picture. You can't beat what happens in a game of darts. And if you're one of those fans that aren't quite into it but would love to watch it, what I want you to do is go and pick up a set of darts and just throw for half an hour. And once you hit a triple 20, once you hit a bullseye, tell me how it feels and tell me you're not going back for another throw in the next half an hour. It's absolutely outstanding, that feeling you get, and when you get that improvement going. And you know, a lot of players will know that they can match it with the best in the world if they put their mind to it. Anyone can. It's not, there is a lot of gifted players in the world, but I've just played a game and thrown a 17 dart leg. I've seen the best in the world throw a 20 dart leg. I could potentially have beaten in one single leg any player in the world because I've seen them all lose in play a 21 dart leg. It's such a fun thing to do. It's amazing. Get involved. I won't keep going because I've disappeared. So there's a lot coming up. We're building towards the World Match Play. The next lot of DPA events aren't too far away. Keep in touch. Jump on my Facebook. I'm working on the website at the moment. There is a YouTube channel coming too, so enjoy that. And yeah, have a good one, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. Any feedback, hit me up. Arrow Slingers on Facebook. We're there. We're here to chat. We're here to listen to what you think about darts and how you enjoy it. Yeah, see you later.